So today we are talking about how to navigate, elevate, and accelerate your success. And women's events are my most favorite events to go to. I never say no to a women's event because anytime I can spread my wisdom and empower women, I do it. But I do diversity trainings as one of the things I do for a living. So I always tell people, don't just sit in your seat and just listen to what the speaker's telling you at face value. You always want to understand their biases or their context in which they're sharing it. So let me tell you a little bit about me. So first and foremost, anytime I speak at an event, I tell people, full disclaimer, I'm from New Jersey. Is anybody in here from New Jersey? You're not from Jersey? You said you guys. No? Next, right here, the one who was just up here at the podium. Yes. Where are you from?
I'm from New York.
Oh, okay. Close enough. Okay. Because she was like, hey, you guys. And I was like, oh, she's so Jersey or New York. Oh, so who else is from New Jersey?
I'm New York. Well, New York.
Okay, New York, but not upstate New York. Are you upstate? Because you guys are nice up there.
It's considered upstate here, though.
Rochester?
Yeah.
Buffalo?
Do you consider Westchester upstate?
Yes. No? All right, so those of you who are not from the tri-state area, you're like, why is she telling us this? It's because I live in Augusta, Georgia right now. Anybody Georgia?
Western part.
Yeah, we're in Georgia.
Yes.
Where?
Oh, I live in Snellville.
Yeah, I know Snellville. Yeah, love Snellville. Yeah. So I live in Augusta, Georgia, and in Augusta, they refer to me as the Yankee. Like capital T, capital H, capital A, the Yankee. And I was like, why do y'all say that to me? Like, what's going on? And they're like, because you're loud, you're obnoxious, and they don't like that I curse. And I tell you this because this is the lens in which you're going to hear this today is I'm still really Jersey. Like, it comes out, I curse, I'm loud, and I don't sugarcoat anything. So that's the lens you're all going to get today, okay? Those of you from the tri-state area will be the only people who won't be offended by anything I say today. But I actually call myself a Yankee Belle because I've lived in the South now longer than I've lived in New Jersey, and I say y'all, I drink sweet tea, and I do say bless your heart. So, Yankee Belle. I also think it's important for you to know that I'm a licensed mental health counselor. So if there's anything I tell you today that totally screws with your head, have no fear. Get my contact information at the end. I can undo any no, I'm just kidding. I tell you this because I care about people. So over here, I genuinely care about people. But over here, I have a doctorate of business. And I genuinely care about and understand the importance of the bottom line of business. So the lens in which you're going to hear me talking today is coming from the lens of helping people maximize the success of their business through their people. Okay? What else can I tell you? I'm a recovering academic. So I was a business school professor for a long time. I was a dean of a business school for 15 years. And I was just sharing with my table, I don't know what happened, but I turned 40 a few years ago. And I have no idea if it has anything to do with the fact that that's the year I turned 40. But I found myself coming into work burned out. I was like Eeyore on Winnie the Pooh. And I came into work one day and I said, hey, can somebody tell me one thing we do well around here? One thing. Because I need to huddle around that one thing. And then I suddenly realized, wow. So I'm a firm believer you either need to lead or get out of the way. And I needed to get out of the way. I was doing nobody any good staying in that role. So I went back to a faculty role where I did my teaching, my research, and my service. And I got bored 6 weeks into it. I got bored. So I started this little side hustle called Career Potential where I do coaching, training, consulting, and speaking. And it blew up. Fast forward 5 years, I'm doing this full-time now. I never thought in a million years I'd be a full-time entrepreneur, but that's what I am. I have a team of people who work with me, and that's where I'm at. Anything else you want to know about me or you feel like you need to know about me to understand my lens? My expertise, I do stuff on generational diversity, anything under the diversity umbrella, but my specialty is working with women and looking at how unconscious bias impacts women's career decisions and career progression. I do a lot of stuff on emotional intelligence. Kind of a cool little side thing, I'm an affiliate faculty member at FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center down in Brunswick, Georgia, and I train all incoming U.S. Marshals on emotional intelligence. And I also do a whole lot of stuff on leadership development, and right now I'm working with other scholars on creating a women's leadership identity theory. Because I don't know if you know, but every single leadership theory that exists out there, servant leadership, transformational leadership, all those theories, yeah, They were written by men, for men. Every leadership book you read out there, has anybody found one for women written by a woman? Yeah, give me one. Okay, so Lean In, I have my students read in my diversity classes because it is the #1 book about privilege. You want to talk about privilege. And I actually don't have people read that book because you have to have been in a privileged upbringing that she had to be able to do what she does. Give me another one. Anybody?
What did we just read? Yeah. No, the one before. Radical candor.
So a lot of the books out there written for women is teaching women how to behave like a man and how to navigate the workplace environment that was designed by men. Ooh, right? Ooh. You're like, shit, right? Yeah, so this is the space that I'm in right now, is I am working with some other scholars because we know that women identify with leadership differently than men. And we also know that women will behave, well, the younger generation of women will behave differently, where the older generation of women continue to behave like a man in the workplace environment. So have I piqued your interest a little bit? All right, so let's get into it. So to get started, I want you to take a look at the screen in front of you and find the matchstick that best represents you. Because some of you, if you were sitting at a desk looking in a mirror, this is what you would look like. And if I walked by too fast and went, whoosh, you'd fall into a pile of ashes. So we're going to do a quick exercise called laughing yoga. You ready? When I say go, you're going to make yourself laugh. You ready? Set, go. Woo! 3 more seconds, keep it going. You have a great laugh, I love it. All right, so listen, what are all of us doing right now in the room?
Smiling.
Okay, the analytical folks, you guys didn't laugh out loud, but you were laughing in your head. I'll take it, I get it, it's okay. So listen, I'm doing a lot of talks right now on burnout. One of the many things you can do when you're experiencing high levels of burnout is to go make yourself laugh. Go find things that you can do that make you happy and you have fun, and it will help diffuse you. Okay, so that was your public service announcement from the mental health counselor this morning. All right, so let's talk about navigating success as women. As women, we have unique challenges that men do not have. And I'll share with you, when I started my career 25 years ago, I played sports growing up. I was a women's studies minor. I was this diehard feminist, and I used to say to myself, I don't want to go to a women's leadership program because I don't want to be treated differently. How are we supposed to be treated the same if you're creating these like special programs for me? Well, as I did my research and I progressed through my career, I quickly learned that women do have some unique challenges that men do not have. And as a result, we do need these women's leadership programs to help level the playing field. Now, I'll also share with you, this is a generational phenomena because the younger generations don't see gender, where the older generations do. And we're going to talk about that for a second. But some of the challenges that we have to deal with is some of us need flexible work arrangements because we're still carrying the majority of the parenting household responsibilities. We're still fighting for equal pay. Did you know there's an index of pay equity across gender, and the United States is in the bottom third? And it's going to take hundreds of years for us to catch up. That's why Melinda Gates, I don't know if you know, has recently put forth a whole bunch of money because she's seen the research and it's kind of scary. We also have the unique challenge of sexual harassment. Let me go back to that for a second, though. I've done pay equity studies. Actually, that was my first research project as an undergraduate psychology major. And do you want to know the #1 reason why many women don't get paid equal to men? We don't ask for it. If we just start asking for equal pay or what we deserve to get paid, we will close the gap rather quickly. Okay? We also have to deal with still today sexual harassment. We still have to deal with both racial and gender bias that happens in the workplace. And I'm also here to tell you that women have a stronger unconscious bias against women than men have against women. Very sad. I thought about it. Should I be in a skirt today? Should I be in pants? Should I wear heels? Should I not wear heels? Because if I came up here in sneakers, some of you would instantly have a judgment call on me and not even realize you're having a judgment call on me. So there's all kinds of research on heels versus sneakers as it relates to women. Crazy phenomena. We also have challenges of having access to hot jobs. A lot of times these hot jobs are not publicly posted, and it's through networking and people that they know. And right now, the game of golf is one of our biggest barriers. Because you think about it, you go to a conference or you go to an event. I'm looking over here because you said pharmaceuticals, like this is the world you live in, and you used to live in. And there's these conferences, banking conferences, things that they have golf. So what do the men do? They go out and play golf, and the women who attend go upstairs and do work. Right? After an event, many times men go out and have a few drinks. And I don't know, my mom specifically taught me that women don't belong in bars. Right? Or, they have different social activities that all these hot job networking opportunities happen, and women don't have access to that or choose not to. Or there's social norms that we don't belong there. I was a dean of a business school, and I wrote a grant to make free golf lessons available to all of my women in business in my business school. Anytime I design a women in leadership program for women in business, I always incorporate how to shoot a weapon and how to play golf. The only reason why I do the weapon thing is because I work with the marshals, and the marshals told me, Melissa, you better have $1,000 stashed somewhere in your house, and you better know how to shoot a gun. And I was like, I don't even own a gun. And they were like, you better get one. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I learned how to shoot a gun. I still don't own one, but if I had to, I could shoot a gun if I needed to, right? I live in Georgia, okay? So what's funny, I grew up in New Jersey. People didn't have guns like where I live. And then I moved to Georgia, and someone broke into my house, and the police came, and we were given this statement, and the police said, well, why didn't you shoot him? I was like, sir? And he's like, why don't you shoot him? And I was like, well, one, we don't have guns, and two, can I do that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, but by the time we saw him, this gentleman broke into our house while we were home during the day. We had the garage door up, and he literally came in that. And I was like, well, sir, by the time we saw him leaving, he was out in the middle of the street. He's like, well, you shoot him, and then you drag him back on your property. And I was like, so then I was like, what the? So then I went to all my neighbors, and I was like, hey, you're not going to believe what the police said to me. And all my neighbors were like, did you shoot him? And I was like, people. Like, what is going on? And then I said to my husband, babe, we're the only ones without a gun. We at least need to know how to shoot him. So if the world came down, we go to our neighbors, get their guns. Anyway. Women often have a double bind that they have to navigate, which basically means they're in a no-win situation. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. We also have had lack of role models for many of us, and I call the Gen X women, which, by the way, Gen X women are women between the ages of 45 and 59. I call us the Heisman. Because the younger generations come up to us and they're like, oh, hey, will you be my role model? And we're like, whoa, bitch, whoa. Like, whoa. I didn't have a role model. And that, you got to figure it out. I had to figure it out, right? We have non-inclusive workplaces. There's cultural expectations. So here's what I'm telling you. There's some unique barriers for women. And my younger women in the audience looking around, some of you are like, really, Melissa? It's 2024. Wait till you progress throughout your career, and it's going to hit you like a Mack truck. Because I was raised, women can do anything they want. And when I moved from New Jersey and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, lived there for 7 years, then I moved to Athens, Georgia, then I moved to Augusta, Georgia. Where do you live that you're laughing so hard? Because you know what I'm talking about.
I grew up in Tampa. All of that.
Yeah, it's real. And it hits you like a Mack freaking truck because you're like, oh my gosh, this is 2024, right? But we have some unique challenges. And we need to start thinking about how to navigate these challenges. Because you don't want to just have a pity party and roll over and be like, well, I'm just screwed because I'm a woman. No. So what I want you to do, I'm going to have you going through some reflection exercises here this morning. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about, what does success look like for you? Think to yourself, when you think about being successful, what does that look like? Does that look like you earn a certain amount of money? Does that look like you're successful when you can buy a home? Or are you successful when you have a certain title? Are you successful when you can buy red bottom shoes? I I know nothing about red bottom shoes. I recently hired a stylist because I can't dress if my life depended on it. It was stressing me out packing. And now, because of freaking Instagram, my marketing team was like, Melissa, you have worn the same navy blazer in every single picture, and it's a problem. So I was like, so I hired a stylist. And she was like, do you want red bottom shoes? I'm like, red what? And she's like, red bottom shoes? No. Do y'all know what they are? Y'all know? God, I feel like such a dork because I don't know what they are. So is that what success looks like to you? I don't know. What does it look like? Does success look like you've successfully raised your children? Like, in your mind, what does it mean to you? Okay? Now I'm going to break it down even more. What does career mean to you? Because here's the thing. Career is a Gen X mindset. So again, 45 to 59, we aspire for career success. We were told to school, get your degrees, move to the top, get it done, get it done, get it done. And oftentimes when we think about success in the context of career. Okay, now go down to the next generation, best generation in the workforce right now, by the way. Those of you between the ages of, let's say, 43 to 28, where are you at? Yeah, buddy. Best generation in the workforce right now. You guys think about career very differently. Okay? 2 camps. You have the camp over here where you're going to have 5, 6, 7 careers throughout your lifetime. You're going to have you're going to start off in this one, you're going to get bored, and then you're going to go do another one, and then you're going to get bored, and then you're going to do another one, and you don't like that anymore, so then you're going to go to this one, and then you're going to try to live off the grid and homestead for a little while, and then you're going to realize you like power too much, and then you're going to have another one. So you guys may have 6, 7, 8 careers throughout your lifetime. Is that you? Did I totally call you out? Okay, then here's the other camp. The other camp, you guys may never have a career, and you're okay with it. You have a job. You have a J-O-B job, and that job pays the bills. And that job allows you to live life, and life starts when you get off of work. And then you have your little side hustle, and the side hustle is really your passion project. That's what you really want to do, but you don't have, it doesn't have the security and stability to it. So you're just going to keep working that job. And yet you have Gen X who's like career, get it done, get it done, get it done. And you're like, whoa. Which by the way, I call the millennials the peace out generation. I used to do this, and my college students told me, Dr. Furman, that's not cool anymore. So then they taught me deuces. They made me practice, stand on the side, pucker my lips, nod my head. They told me I can do 2 hands, I can do 1 hand, the whole deuces. And then my freshmen, last Monday night, did this. I'm like, that's a gun. You can't do that. This is gang signals, and this is this. I'm like, can we just go back to this, right? We're piecing out. Because the minute that the millennial generation's not happy, they're peacing out. They're not hanging out for a while. And so this is why I asked this question. What does this career mean to you? So how many of you are in a career right now, would you say? Yeah, I don't know she's like, I'm doing something. Okay, so let me break it down one more level for you. What does work mean to you? For you, it's not working too hard yet. Here's what's funny. So let me tell you why I'm asking this. So ask yourself this. How many of you think to yourself, how many of you work to live? You go to work to get a paycheck to go live life. Show of hands, show me. How many of you think you work to live? A lot of you are entrepreneurs, so you don't really have a choice. A lot of you live to work. That's me. So if you won the lottery tomorrow, would you still work? You may not be doing what you're doing right now, but you would do something. And then there's a bunch of you sitting here going, I never thought about it. Work is work. I'm always going to have to work. I never thought about it. I never thought about winning the lottery and not working. So some of you just have this perplexed look on your face, right? As you're thinking about the future, because I didn't want to come in here and say, this is how you have to navigate your career success, or here's how you have to elevate your success, without first starting with you defining what does success look like to you, what does career mean to you, and what does work look like for you, okay? So now that we kind of set that tone, you take whatever I'm going to tell you from here on out and apply it however you want, okay? And so I want to know where you are in this room. So do we have anybody who was born pre-1945? See, in the South, they tell you it's rude to ask people their ages, so this is why I have to do birth years. Okay? Those folks are 78 and older, in case you're wondering. Anybody in here born between 1946 and 1964? Yeah, you guys are the first women in the workforce. How many years did y'all have to wear pantyhose for a really long time?
Yes, I did.
Did you have to wear pantyhose? Oh, God. So funny story. I moved from New Jersey to Georgia, and I assumed the Southern women would wear pantyhose, right? And so I was wearing pantyhose for like the first 5 years, and it was so freaking hot. Like, it was horrible. And then I went and spoke to these women in business in Savannah, and they were like, oh, bless your heart, you don't need to wear pantyhose. So like right there on stage, I like ripped them off, and I was like, oh, God. And if the women of Savannah, Georgia tell you you don't have to wear pantyhose, like they are the voice. And then I walked away, and I was like, what if they're playing a joke on me? What if they're like, ha, 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 we're going to tell that Yankee she doesn't have to wear pantyhose, bless her heart, and she does. So then I started looking around, and women in the South don't wear pantyhose. But you guys wore them for a long time. Thank you for that, I guess, maybe. Okay. How many of you were born between 19, let's say, 80 and 1965? No, wait a minute, I did that wrong. Let me just use birth dates, okay? Are y'all happy with that? Okay, so we have 78 and above. We have 60 to 77. That's back there. And then we have 45 to 59. Where are you at again? Okay, we're the problem. We are the hardest generation to work with and work for. We're workaholics. We work until the work gets done. We have a hard time understanding why everybody else doesn't work as hard as we do. When we leave at night and our vehicle's the last one there, we're pissed. And we go home and we're pissed. We get up the next morning, we're still pissed. We come in, we're the first vehicle there, and we're more pissed. We come in and we envision in our heads of who we're going to tell off if we quit today. Like, F you, F you, F you. No, I like you, F you. Matter of fact, you even write a resignation letter. You print it out. You put it through the shredder because there's something gratifying about seeing it like go through the shredder. But Gen X, do we quit? No, we just keep going, right? We're just pissed about it. We have an extreme sense of urgency to us. We want stuff done our way because our way is the best way, because we have figured out how to get the most shit done in the shortest period of time, right? And we are like so mad at the millennials right now. We are like they are lazy, they're entitled, they're trophy kids, they're sensitive, wah, wah, wah. And you know what? When organizations call me up, they throw money at me. Like they're like, Melissa, please help us deal with these damn millennials. We don't know how to hire them. We don't know how to fire them. We don't know how to motivate them, manage them, get them to get dressed to come to work. Like, what are we doing? And do you want to know where I spend all my time? Gen X. Yeah. Because good employees don't leave bad organizations. They leave bad what?
Not true.
Listen, who said not true?
I said not true.
Okay.
I said that there are different expectations.
All right, so hold on. I'm getting there. That's what I said. So Gen X says to me, what? You saying I'm a bad leader? And I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is your leadership style and approach is not aligned with the mindset and preferences of the younger generations. And so then what does Gen X say to me? Oh, so what are you saying? I have to like coddle them? I have to like cater them? I have to like lower my standards? I said, no. You just have to be inclusive of them. Just because they don't work as hard as you do doesn't mean that they're wrong. Just because their best way isn't your best way doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just different. Okay? We'll come back to that. All right, best generation of the workforce right now. You guys are 28 to 43. Where are you at? Welcome to your 40s. That's amazing. Anybody in here who's between 13 and 27? Really? Hey, guys. Hey. You guys are my favorite. I love you guys. And I love that I'm seeing more and more of you. And so for you guys, for real, you're like, what? Women aren't equal to men? No freaking way. Like, no way. You guys are the offspring of Gen X. I just described your parents about the workaholic. You get this. Let me give you a quick teaser. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, but so I can sleep tonight, because I'm going to sleep like a rock after all those fire drills last night. all of this generational stuff is BS. If you look at my research, you will not find one single article published on generational diversity, because you know why? There's no validity to any of it, and there's no academic journal who will ever publish it, because you cannot say that these generations, these are pure stereotypes. It is a popular press phenomena. 1970, watch out the baby boomers, they're a bunch of hippies. 1990, watch out, here comes Gen X, they're a bunch of workaholics. And what we've been listening to for the last 10 to 15 years is watch out for these damn millennials. They're lazy, they're entitled, they're sensitive, they're trophy kids, so on and so on. And you were brainwashed to believe it because of social media. There is no evidence to support that the millennial generation has any of those characteristics. Now, some of you are like, whoa, wait. Melissa, come hang out with me for a day. I'm going to show you they're lazy, they're entitled, they're sensitive. And I'm going to say, yeah, you're not wrong. But what you're witnessing has nothing to do with what generation they were born in. It has to do with their maturity. The baby boomers matured at 18, 19, 20. They were getting married, they were buying homes, some of them were being drafted to war, Vietnam War. The Gen Xers, we matured in our mid-20s, and let's be honest, I believe the men didn't mature to their late 20s. There's no data to support that, but that's just my opinion. What we're seeing with the millennial generation is they're not maturing till their early 30s. Now, my Gen Zers, the three of you, you guys are like old freaking souls. You're showing up like 50-year-olds in the workplace. And because your Gen X parents have been treating you like adults as children, and so you're coming into the workplace really, really confident, and you think you can do this thing called adulting, well, let me give you a problem. I'm going to put you in a room by yourself, no teamwork, and I'm going to take away your technology. What happens? Suddenly they're a 12-year-old all over again, right? So that's why when you're hiring these 28-year-olds, 27-year-olds, whatever, and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, when I was 28, I already had 3 businesses under my belt. I've been promoted 5 times. I've bought a home. The 28-year-old in front of you, this may be their first job. So anytime you hear a generational diversity speaker and they go into all these stereotypes, it's a bunch of BS. That's all it is stereotypes. It's a whole professional emotional maturity thing. Okay? Sorry, I went off my soapbox. All right, we know that most women are experiencing high levels of burnout, and burnout is happening across all generations. We're just seeing it the worst in the Gen X generation because they've been working hard, they're the sandwich generation, they're raising kids, they have aging parents, right? And the Gen X women are like going down a ski slope at 100 miles an hour because they have one foot at work, they have one foot at home, they have poles under their armpits, and they're going down the hill 100 miles an hour, right? Because we were the first generation as little girls, we were told you can do anything you want, yet we didn't have any or very few role models, and we had parents who still had traditional gender roles. And whether you realize it or not, being raised, we were taught to be successful in business, you need to behave like a man. And so here you have all these Gen X women who have a foot on both ski, going down the hill 100 miles an hour, behaving like a man, and when a woman behaves like a man, they're known to be the bitch. When they're behaving exactly the same way that a man behaves. And this is why I believe Gen X women are some of the worst mentors for the younger generations. Because what we're doing when we mentor them is we're perpetuating the cycle to keep teaching them that you have to keep behaving this way, rather than channeling our energy of how can we change the workplace environment to be more inclusive of women, instead of making them behave like a man. A little bit of a different mindset. And so what we're going to do here today is I want to give you, I just missed out on a whole bunch of slides from this morning. So I'm going to tell you what was on my slides that didn't just show up here. Kind of an interesting point of where we are in American history with women in the workplace. We're going to blame it on the fire drill last night. That's where my slides, they are still out in the parking lot, hanging out with the guy with no shirt and the pizza box and shoes, right? So here's what we need to know about interesting facts for women in America right now. We are 52% of the workforce. That's huge. This is progress. We are 58% of mid-level manager roles. That's huge. We need to celebrate that, right? Because we've worked really, really hard. We're still less than 10% of the senior C-suite level. But we'll get there. As there's more of us coming through the applicant pool, as there's more of us with experience, we will get there. but we're only about 50%. And so we saw this huge progression, and then we stalled. Why do you think we stalled? What else? I heard children, we believe we arrived, COVID. We actually stalled before COVID happened. COVID actually made us take 3 steps back. And I'll tell you this, ladies, most of you are entrepreneur business owners, but when women are working remotely, you're going to take 2 more steps back. Because if you are not seen and you are not there to participate in some of the sidebar conversations, you're lagging behind. So I have women who are like, oh, but working from home, I can do so much more work and I can still have both feet on both skis. I'm like, you're not doing yourself any good by working from home, unfortunately, right? We stalled for a lot of different reasons, a lot of them being those challenges that I showed at the beginning, but we know that we have stalled. I did a research study at the Medical College of Georgia because we had all of these assistant professors and associate professors. We had like hundreds of females in those roles, and then we had less than 10 in a full professor role. And when I went and did research, a lot of it is because I talked to the women, they didn't want the full professor roles. Like, because there's this expectation, like, well, women, you have to go to the top. You have to be the CEO. Don't you want to be a C-suite level person? And a lot of women are like, I don't want that job. For what? At what expense? It's not worth it, right? And what we're finding is the younger generations, a lot of them don't even want those roles. So let's take gender out of it. They just don't want it. And what we do know that in America, we have the most diverse population we've ever had in the history of America, especially in our workforce. When I talk about my diversity studies, I talk about how the Caucasian population will become the minority population in America in the next 5 years. So when you look at the growth of African American, Hispanic American, Asian American, all of these different ethnic groups, they collectively will become the majority, and the Caucasian group will become the minority. And so what's interesting, I'm sitting here thinking about my slides. That's okay. We're just going to keep going. And it's interesting, as we're coming into the workplace environment, the workplace here in America was designed by men, more specifically white men. And so now as we have all of this diversity coming into our workplace, people are coming in this business environment, and they're looking around and they're like, I just don't feel like I fit here. Let me give you a perfect example. Have you ever been through the process of performance reviews? By the way, biggest waste of time and money. Right now, when I'm talking to businesses about how to lower the transactional cost of doing business, get rid of performance reviews, which guess what? They're going to go away anyway in the next 3 years because this Gen Z generation cares a whole lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're going to show up in the workplace and they're going to say, oh, okay, so I'm only going to get a 2% raise because I scored a 3 instead of a 5 on my performance review, and that performance review is biased. You can't remove the bias from that performance review. They're going to call you out on it, they're going to sue you, and they're going to win.
What about in Florida where they're getting rid of all this?
You had to bring up Florida, right? Because like we're here. So
I'm at Tampa.
Florida's reasons for getting rid of DEI is a little bit different than other states' reasons for getting rid of DEI. When people ask me from a DEI perspective, like, I encourage people to not create a DEI council, to not create a position of DEI, because you know why? DEI should be ingrained in everything you do anyway. You shouldn't have just one person. Now, some organizations are so behind, they should have a DEI person temporarily just to provide the thought leadership to get the organization where it needs to be. But then moving forward, we should have leveled the playing field that it should be ingrained in everything that we do. So on college campuses, a lot of them are saying no, because it should be ingrained in everything we do. But Florida and Texas's reasons are different, and it's political. And we're not going to go there. Okay, we agree, we don't want to go there. I may be banned from the state of Florida if that's the case.
Girl, I live there.
Right? Different reasons. And so, performance review. Let me give you an example. Have any of you been through a performance review where teamwork was one of the metrics? Okay, well, when you say team to a man, they often think sports, they think winning. When you say team to a woman, we often think collaboration. When you say teamwork to a Hispanic American, they think something very differently than that of an Asian American, which is very different than that of a Caucasian American. And so here you have the person who's scoring you on whether or not you think you're doing a good job at teamwork, that you can't minimize their biases. You should not tie compensation to performance reviews. You will, in the next 3 to 5 years, you will get sued. And you will lose. And then people say, well, how do we fire people? Well, you should be firing less than 3% of your people every year. You guys, your industry, you may need to fire maybe 10%, depending. So you're going to put all that money and expense into firing 10% of your people? Like, is there not another metric, cost-effective metric that we can use? And then when people say, well, how do we measure our KPIs? How do we measure our business? And then I pull out my doctorate of business, and you get an hour lecture on how you can measure success within your business without using performance reviews. The workplace environment is more diverse than it has ever been. And as women are coming up and they're looking around, they're saying, hey, I don't feel like I fit here, and I need to start fitting here. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I have a whole list, because I only have you guys until 11. I said, what are the top 5 things I want to tell these ladies? And so here are the top 5 recommendations I want to give you to help you navigate, elevate, and accelerate your success. Okay? We good? Okay. First thing is mindset. You have to commit to having a positive growth mindset. You cannot be like me on Eeyore, on Winnie the Pooh. You have to embrace that things are going to be different. You have to embrace that the future is bright, the future is different, and we have to start thinking about doing things differently. Because the one thing that Gen X loves to do when they give the Heisman, because the younger generations are asking them, hey, why do we have the laundromat set up this way? Hey, why do we do this? Hey, why do we have the contract with this machine? Hey, why do we do this? And why? And when they ask us why, what do we like to say to them, Gen X? Because I said so, or because that's the way we've always done it, right? Well, I'm going to tell you, the future landscape of business, the only thing constant is change. And you have to have this mindset of, okay, because let me tell you something. Before the holidays, I had this talk called Leading for Today and Tomorrow, and I would stand up and I would talk about how we've seen more change in business in the last 18 months in America than we saw throughout the entire Industrial Revolution, right? Holidays happened, I came back and I said, let me pull my data again. And I pulled my data, and I can now stand here today and say to you, we have seen more change in business and how business is done in America in the last 8 weeks than we have seen throughout the entire Industrial Revolution thanks to AI. 80% of our leadership skills that many of us have been trained, trust me, I was a Girl Scout Gold Star. I have been through every leadership program you can possibly think of, and I've taught leadership for 20 years. And 80% of what we've been teaching is no longer relevant and will not be relevant leading into the future. There's different skills that we're going to need to lead into the future. So you have to have a positive growth mindset that I need to embrace new and different and disruption and innovation, okay? So we're going to do a quick exercise. Go ahead and stand up. And I want you to think about your best day ever. And don't say that was the day you gave birth to your kids, because that was like really the best day ever. Like, let's be honest. So just stand here, and you can close your eyes if you want to, and you can think about it. But I want you to think about your best day ever. What were you wearing that day? Maybe it was something work-related. Maybe this was the day that you opened up a new facility. That was the best day ever. Or maybe it was the day that you secured a really big client that you worked on for a long time. For me, it was when I convinced my faculty to allow students to get credit for internships, because it took me 7 years to convince them that students can learn just as much in the classroom, out in the world as they can in the classroom. That was a huge victory for me. So think about, like, what were you wearing on your best day ever? What was the day like? You were like walking down the hall, or you see somebody and you're giving someone a high five. You're like maybe talking to your spouse about it that night over dinner, and you're just feeling good. You have a little pep in your step. You go to bed, you're feeling good. You wake up the next morning, you're still feeling good. Texting people, telling people about your success. Y'all picture your best day ever? Now, if you don't have a best day ever, get my contact information at the end and we'll have a career counseling appointment, okay? All right. If you could stand up here and you can see what I'm seeing right now, normally this exercise, I pair you up and I have you looking at each other and I have one person close their eyes, the other person look, and I say, think of your best day ever, and then I say, think of your worst day ever. Worst day ever? We're not doing that. People are too burned out. People start crying and I have to come in like with my crisis intervention skills. So nobody think about their worst day ever. Just keep thinking about your best day ever, okay? But if you could stand up here and you can see what I see, so many of you like did this. And you stood up taller. And some of you even started like nodding your head. And you were smiling. And you just kind of like your posture got bigger. That's why I wanted you to stand up. You can go ahead and sit down. Because if you can get in your positive mindset and you think of your best day ever self, that is who you're going to bring to the table every day. So what I want you to do is I want you to come up with your badass name. So your best day ever is your badass self, okay? And I want you to come up with your badass name. So for example, I'm Melissa. My badass name is Missy. And I'm like, I'm going to bring Missy to the table today, right? There was a woman I worked with. Her name was Tammy. Her middle name was Joe, so her badass self was Tammy Joe. I had this one woman. Her name was Kate, and her badass self was Catherine. Does anybody have their badass name that they want to share? Queen. You are going to bring Queen to the table. Anybody else have another one?
My kids gave me one. Does that count?
Yes. What is it?
My name is Lisa, but when I go in mom mode, like you've asked them 20 times to do something and they don't, you finally have to go off on them.
Yeah.
Leisha.
Love it. If we had name tags, I would have you all write your badass name on your name tag, and I would like have you put it on and wear it for the rest of the conference. Because as women, as professionals, let's take gender out of it. As professionals, you're going to encounter rough days. You're going to encounter barriers. You're going to encounter challenges. And you have to commit to bringing your badass self to the table that day. Get into mom mode. You know, if you're coming into a meeting where you're going to be negotiating a really big deal, you get into that mode, right? When you have to have a hard conversation with a difficult employee, you get into that badass mode. So let me give you another example. So Tammy Joe, she is a female working in manufacturing, male-dominated industry, and she's in the IT area, and she keeps hitting these barriers, and she's like, I just can't seem to navigate around these barriers. What's going on? So we came up with Tammy Joe, and then I said to her, hey, anytime you go into the meeting with these men, I want you to put on a blazer. Now, this is not just me, Gen X, telling young women to put on a blazer to look like a man and navigate the male space. No, I said, I want you to put on a blazer. And she's like, Melissa, I work in manufacturing. Nobody wears a frickin' blazer. It's hot. It's Georgia. Nobody's in a blazer. I said, put on a blazer. Keep it behind your door. And when you go to a meeting with these guys, I want you to put on the blazer. She's like, why? And I said, because that is your cape. You are going to get into character, and you are going to bring Tammy Joe to that meeting. And you are going to be confident, and you're going to rock it. And it worked. And fast forward 6 weeks later, I run into the CEO of her company who I know really well. And he was like, hey, you've been working with Tammy. I'm like, Tammy Joe? Yes, that's right. And he says, there's just something different about her. I'm like, she's more confident. And he's like, yeah, but there's even something different about the way she looks. And I said, she wearing a blazer? He's like, yes, that's it. He's like, she's wearing a blazer. And he's like, and it's so wild. Suddenly everybody else started wearing blazers. Like she set the tone for the meeting. And he was like, what's the significance of the blazer? And I was like, you won't get it. But she got into character. So make sure you have your badass self and bring your badass self. Whether you have to put on a piece of jewelry, put on a blazer, wear your gold heels, whatever you got to do, you have to get into character. And if you are in character long enough, that eventually will become you, okay? The next thing you need to do to have a positive mindset is you need to reframe your perspective. When you find yourself saying something negative all the time, you have to say, flip the script. So here my husband is extremely burned out. He's got the goggles on, the dark cloud, and every time we drive out of our neighborhood, he has something negative to say about something. Like, oh my gosh, they haven't cut their grass in 12 weeks. Oh my gosh, their car is up on cinder blocks. And I was like, babe, every time we drive out of the neighborhood, I want you to find 3 positive things to say. So now he's like, well, it's only been 3 weeks since they haven't cut their grass instead of 12 weeks, right? It's only 1 cinder block instead of 4. Okay, but this shit works, y'all. You have to flip the script. So let's flip this. So maybe you say, I'm never going to be promoted, or man, I'm never going to be successful in this industry because I'm a woman. How can you flip that to a more positive statement? Holler it out.
I have endless opportunities to grow in this industry.
I have endless opportunities to grow in this industry. I may have some barriers, but you know what? I'm going to get over them. Give me another one. I have a unique perspective because, Gen Z, this is why I love you guys. Love them. I have a unique perspective because I'm a woman, and it's going to open more opportunities for me. Good. What else? Because I'm a woman, I bring so much to the table. Awesome.
I have a different skill set because I'm a woman.
I have a different skill set because I'm a woman. Yeah? You want to acknowledge the challenges, right? You don't want to be naive or just like blow it off. You can say, hey, because I'm a woman, there's going to be challenges, but I'm going to get over it because I'm a woman, because of the unique skill set that I have. These are new opportunities. Okay? Let's do another one. Here were some of my ideas. One of them was, there's going to be challenges, but I'm determined to overcome them. I'm going to show them, prove to them that I'm qualified for the position. But this is the one I like the best, is when you can take personal accountability. Do you know how many times I have people blame others and go outward when they don't get something that they want? Like, oh, I'm never going to be promoted because I'm a woman. I'm never going to be promoted because I'm blonde. I'm never going to be promoted because I'm a Yankee in Augusta, Georgia. Whatever it is, I say, no, take accountability and say, hey, I may need to do a better job of promoting my qualifications for that role. Hey, I may need to put on a skirt suit and heels if I want to close this deal in the South. Hey, I may need to tie my hair back and look a little bit more professional to be able to get this person to buy my product, right? So don't be afraid to take accountability and saying, I'm going to do something different to overcome this barrier. All right, now, my Gen Z students always say to me, but Dr. Furman, then you're not being authentic to who you are. If you have to tie your hair back, or if you have to put on a skirt suit, because that was my whole beef in the Southeast. I was showing up in pantsuits, and every single time they saw me in pantsuits, they saw Hillary Clinton. Right? And the minute that I put on a freaking skirt, it is amazing how people treated me differently in a business environment in the Southeast. And people say, yeah, but you're not being authentic. Yes and no. One of it is I care a whole lot about my success, and if I have to put on a freaking skirt to get there, I'm going to put on a freaking skirt to get there. And then when I get there, I'm going to blow this place up. It's manipulation, folks, right? Yeah, knowing your audience. It's being adaptable, being a chameleon. And at the end of the day, I may not win every battle, but I'm going to win the war. It's being strategic. Okay? Number 2 recommendations. So number 1 is mindset. Number 2, think of this as a pyramid, okay? We have to have mindset. If you don't have that foundation of mindset, I can't build off of it. So first foundation is mindset. Second layer of the pyramid is self-awareness. You need to know who you are. You need to know what motivates you. So I love that we talked about that at our tables. You need to know your preferences. You need to know your mindset. So when you think about your preferences, right now when I'm coming into the workplace and I'm seeing people who are having conflict or they're having challenges, it's because one person prefers something over the other and no one has communicated it to one another. So I'll hear my older folks say, yeah, I hate how these younger folks text me that they're not coming into work. I'm like, okay, that is their preferred method of communication. Well, I don't like it. Well, did you communicate to them up front that when they're calling out of work, they have to call you and not text you? No, they should know how to do that because that's the professional thing to do. Well, that was the professional thing that you were told to do in your upbringing, but in today's day, they're not told that. So if you want them to call you, you need to tell them, my preference is when you're calling out of work, you call me, but be ready to answer their why. So when I say to my older folks, why do you feel like they need to call you? Well, because I want to know if they're really sick. Okay, that's not a communication issue, that's a trust issue that we need to work on, right? Which, by the way, as the workplace becomes more diverse, trust goes down. Research has shown when you have people of different backgrounds, mindsets, and that goes up, trust will go down. Why is that? Because human beings naturally trust people who are similar to them. And when they start getting around people who aren't similar to them, and think about this with your customers and your clients and your clientele and your constituents, if they are more diverse, what are you doing to make sure that they know that you trust them and they trust you? You're going to have to be very strategic about that, okay? But many times, if you just communicate your preferences, hey, I'm more of a morning person than a night person. So if you want to have a meeting, morning is going to be better. Hey, I need to have 3 cups of coffee before we have hard conversations. I mean, tell people what are your preferences, okay? But let's talk about this thing called emotional intelligence. Let me actually, see, I must have given you all the wrong slides when I uploaded them. It's totally fine. They're just out of order a little bit. No, I don't care. It's the fire drill. That's what happened. It's with the man in the pizza box. If you don't have access, do you guys, any of you have access to an assessment you can take that'll help you learn this about yourself? Because if you don't, get my contact information at the end and I will get you one for free. And I promise you, I do not put you on a list. I won't sell you anything. I'm not a good business person in that sense. I probably should and put you in a CRM system and market shit to you all day long. I don't. I'm a recovering academic. You basically send it to me, my assistant will send it to you, and then that's it. It's a 46-page assessment, though. It's going to tell you your behavioral style. It's going to tell you your communication preferences. It's going to tell you how people perceive you. If you want it, get my contact information at the end and I'll send it to you. But I also have access to a career development workbook that at the end there will be a QR code. You don't have to take, you could take it now or you can get it at the end. It's a workbook that you can download. Again, I don't get your information. You don't have to put anything in for it. You just download it. And you can go through the workbook, and it'll help you raise your self-awareness, okay?
But the assessment isn't in this.
No. No, because I only have a certain number of complimentary ones, so I hold on to them. The workbook is something I created, and anybody can have it. I don't care. Try it and make sure it works. If not, I'm going to text my assistant and give her shit. Yeah, but click on the career development page and type in 0123 and see if it works. As of last Friday, it was like crashing Adobe. Yeah? Yep. Winning. Okay, she won't get fired today. We're okay. No, I'm just kidding. I like Gen X of me. I wanted to send her a text all weekend, fix this, but being respectful of her preferences, and she's not a workaholic like me, I sent her an email and said, hey, when you get back to the office on Monday, can you fix this? Notice I asked her, can you fix it? Gen X, by the way, is great at telling people what to do. We're horrible about asking for help. So when I coach my Gen Xers, the first thing I coach them is teaching them how to ask people rather than tell people. Yeah. Okay. The big one that you all need to be dialed into is this thing called emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the top 3 characteristics that will contribute to success, and you need to know if you have it. Now, I've been studying this for a long, long time. There's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of questionnaires, and here's what I'm going to tell you. Most of them focus on this first bucket, which is self-awareness. How aware are you of your emotions, and how aware are you of others' emotions? That's the first step. That's great. There's a lot of books out there on it, but that's actually more than that. The second bucket is how well can you manage your emotions. So, okay, I know I'm sad, I know I'm angry, I know I'm frustrated, but now can I manage it? Okay, I know that the person in front of me is crying and is very upset. Can I manage their emotions? Can I help console them? Okay, I have this customer in front of me who's very angry. I can pick up on the social cues. They're yelling at me. They're red in the face. Okay, can I help diffuse their anger? That's the second bucket of emotional intelligence, okay? And then there's actually a third bucket. There's one more layer. It's how well can you use your emotions to navigate this thing called life? How well do you use emotions to solve problems? Manage your stress. Make decisions. Build healthy relationships. And so we're going to do a quick questionnaire because there is an assessment, and I just want to show you this assessment because here's what's cool about emotional intelligence. It can be built. It can be developed. You are not born with it. As you get exposed to more things and maturity, it grows with time. It tends to grow all the way through your 40s. It kind of like peaks and plateaus in your 40s, but it does grow all the way through to your 60s, and then in your 70s, we actually see a decline. Just like with your cognitive abilities, it declines as well. So here's an assessment that I had somebody take. The results on the left was this person's results initially. And then I worked with this person, and this was the person's results on the right. 9 months later, see how much it can be developed? So let's do a quick questionnaire, okay? So you do, now, I do have access to an emotional intelligence assessment, but unfortunately it's not free, and it's $75 freaking dollars. It kills me. There's a lot of free ones out there that you can take a look at online. I just don't endorse them because it only focuses on self-awareness. So we're going to use this questionnaire, okay? So score yourself a 1 to 5 right now in your head. So 1 being low, 5 being high. So the first one is self-regard. What's your level of confidence? Would you say 1, low, 5, high, or 3 in between? Okay? Self-actualization. This is your desire for continuous improvement. This is you trying to strive to be better. Low, you have a low desire for self-improvement and you just kind of just skate by, or you 5, like you are constantly trying to make yourself better. Here's something I want to say here real quick. Low is not bad, high is not good. The goal is to be balanced. So think about it. Some of you, your self-actualization is so high, you keep getting degrees, you keep getting certifications, you keep trying to make yourself better, that it may actually be negatively impacting your self-regard. It may actually be impacting your confidence. So we have to figure out how to get it in a healthy balance. Okay, next one. Emotional self-aware. How aware are you of your emotions? 1 being low, 5 being high. My husband's an engineer. He's like a 1. I'm like a 5. You have a question?
On the previous slide, you were mentioning about the ages of when emotional intelligence. Is that the same for men and women?
Statistically, there is no gender differences as it relates to emotional intelligence. But what is your thoughts on that?
My boyfriend's like, yeah, just years behind me.
Yeah, and I would also say, so human beings are complex creatures, right? There's many layers to us. And so my husband's an engineer, and he's an engineer because that aligns with his behavioral style. He's a very analytical, detail-oriented, socially awkward introvert. So most likely my husband's emotional intelligence, self-awareness is lower because he's a highly analytical, detail-oriented, socially awkward introvert. Because of that, he chose the profession of being an engineer. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of reasons why their emotional intelligence may be low. And here's what I'm going to tell you when I coach people. Some of them can never get to the right side. I could invest so much money and time into my husband to help him be more emotionally self-aware. What may happen is by me making him more socially aware may actually hurt his self-regard. And the goal is that you want to be balanced, not all over the place. So what you have to do is you have to coach people. Okay, you know that you're not emotionally aware. So what are some things we can put in around you in your system to mitigate the negative impacts of you not being emotionally self-aware? So let me give you an example. We have an agreement that if he's not being socially aware, I tell him, babe, I am crying in front of you right now. I am very upset. Please stop talking about your car in this moment because I don't give a crap about your car. I'm really upset. But we've had to make that agreement, and he knows that. And so now he knows when I say to him, hey, I'm feeling this way, this is what you need to do. And I'll give you another example here as we continue to go through. Let's look at emotional expression. Would you give yourself a 1 or a 5? Some of you having the 5 may actually hurt you because you're so emotionally expressive, right? My U.S. Marshals are a 1. Again, chicken or the egg. We don't know if it's because of the way they are that made him be a marshal or a marshal made him be that way. They have really low emotional expression. They're trained to not show a lot of emotions. At work, that works great for them. They come home, it gets them in trouble with their marriages, and it gets them in trouble with their kids. And so I say to them, okay, we can't suddenly flip a switch and make you be expressive. However, let's talk about how we can mitigate the negative impacts on your kids and your marriage, right? Okay, next one. Okay, New York, Jersey. What's your assertiveness? Now, let me give you the true definition of assertiveness before you score yourself. Assertiveness is standing up for yourself or something you believe in a socially acceptable, non-destructive manner. Because I scored low, and I was like, what? And my coach was like, yeah, socially acceptable, non-destructive, okay, you're right, right? So where are you on assertiveness? Some of you may be too low because you're destructive about it, and some of you may be too high. Okay? Emotional independence. How emotionally independent are you? So when you're working through something that has a lot of emotions, are you independent and you work through it yourself, or do you need to go call 5 people and talk it out and cry it out and like have other people help you work through it? My U.S. Marshals score really low, and that works against them because they're so emotionally independent, it burns them out pretty fast. So we've had to put some systems in place to encourage them to express their emotions more often. Yeah.
The other individual feel like you are so disconnected, you're not letting me in.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I'm going to repeat that because I was really critical. So what she was saying is you serve it as like a blocker. And some people may misread you and be like, oh, you don't care about me. You're not letting me in. I know what's going on. And it may just be because they're very emotionally independent. Which, by the way, the old mindset of the workplace environment is you don't bring emotions to work. You leave it at the door. There's no crying in baseball. And what's happening is the younger generations are actually taught to be emotionally expressive. And when they're coming in and they're being very emotionally expressive, we're like, meh, what is wrong with you? You're sensitive, you're weak. And we're like, no, they're just expressing their emotions, right? Yeah.
So on the emotional independence, what is low and what is high? So you mentioned the Marshall and the
Yeah.
lack of, what is
So emotional independence low means you're very dependent.
very dependent on somebody else. Okay.
High is you're too high. So what I should have said is the Marshall score really high here. Yeah. It's great, yeah. Fire drill, middle of the night. Just keep asking me for clarification. Okay. Y'all know, well, I shouldn't say this on the recording, but I also spilled perfume all the way down my shirt. Did you see that?
No one noticed it at all until you said something.
It's been one of those mornings. Like, and I just bought this shirt on Saturday, and I now have perfume stains all. So we're just gonna keep doing that, okay?
You work in laundry, so.
Can I get perfume out? I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. Okay. Interpersonal relationships. Okay. This is mutually beneficial, healthy, respectful relationships. 1 is low. You don't have a whole lot of mutually respectful, healthy, beneficial relationships. 5 is you have a whole lot. When I first took this, I scored low. And I was like, what? I'm a relationship builder. This is what I do for a living. I'm a dean of a business school. I'm out building relationships. That's my job. And then my coach said to me, but how many of them are mutually beneficial? And how many of them they're supposed to be give and take. Mine are all give. I'm always giving, I'm giving, and I'm never receiving back. And then my coach says to me, is that by choice? It's a defense mechanism. If you don't let anybody in, you can't get hurt, right?
Or either you feel like you're saving everyone and you don't need to be saved, so when it's time for you to be saved, there's no one to save you. You didn't give that
Yes.
two-way.
Are you one of the coaches here today?
I am a coach.
This is why you all need to come see her, because we connect the dots for you. And then you're like, holy crap, I didn't even think of that. I need therapy from you. You can be my personal coach. Okay, empathy. So I do empathy training. Let me just give you the short definition of this. Empathy is how well you can understand and respect other people's perspective. Can I give you a little quick sidebar on empathy? Be careful because empathy also is bias. So people say, okay, empathy is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. I'm like, okay, but you can go put yourself in my shoes and you can walk around on my heels for a day, but you really understand my lens. Do you understand my lens as a Yankee functioning in the Southeast? You know, I'm one of 4 kids. I have middle child syndrome. My grandparents are immigrants. Like, you really need to know my lens to understand what it's like to walk in my shoes. Let me give you a quick example. When the war in Ukraine broke out, me as an American, I saw it through my American lens. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was saying to my husband, like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? Here we are in Augusta, Georgia, and suddenly Savannah, Georgia is invaded. And it's coming our way, and they're saying men have to stay behind, and the women are to go flee. Would I leave? I'm like, babe, I don't know if I'd leave you. We'd go get our neighbors' guns, and I'd be shooting them, and I'd be learning how to make bombs, and your engineering brain, you'd teach me how to like make bombs, and I wouldn't leave. And I was like seeing it through the American lens, and I was like empathizing with the Ukrainians. Until I came to campus, and we have a whole bunch of Ukrainian students at Augusta University, and I started talking with them, and I was like, oh my gosh, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, Dr. Furman, you're seeing it through your American lens. Boy, did they call me out. And I was like, yeah, and they said, this has been our whole life. Russia has been invading us our whole life. Like, we are expecting this. This is nothing new. We have had wars our entire lives. Like, you're seeing it through your American lens, and you're like freaking out. Now, I'm not saying that they weren't freaking out, but I was imposing my lens and putting myself in their shoes without really understanding their lens. Does that make sense? So how do you score on empathy? 1 being low, that you really don't care about other people's perspectives and don't try to help understand. 5, you really go out of your way. Okay? Impulse control. This is your emotional impulse control. So if you have low impulse control, that means you're very emotionally impulsive. You go from 0 to 80 instantly. I have like negative impulse control. Yeah. That's New York, New Jersey. I really think it's because of where we grew up. I'm just saying, right? If you have a 5, it means you have really high impulse control. These are my marshals. It takes a whole lot to get them emotional. Okay? And then flexibility, your emotional flexibility. When you go through something emotional, how flexible are you? Can you easily flex between your emotions, or do you get stuck? Like somebody cut you off on the way to work and you are stuck there all day and you ruminate and you can't move beyond it. If somebody parks in my husband's parking spot, his whole freaking day is ruined. He calls me and tells me about it. He goes out during his lunch and he wanted to move his car and the person still hasn't moved his car. Like, he could not focus all day because somebody parked in his parking spot. I'm like, okay, move on, right? When I spilled perfume on me, when I didn't get any sleep last night, when my flight went circled for 45 minutes yesterday and then the pilot told us that they're going to attempt to land.
Oh my God.
Right? I was emotionally flexible through that. Like, 1 minute I was like, woo, we're going to land. Oh my gosh, are we going to die? Woo, we're going to land. Oh my gosh, we're going to die. And then I was like, okay, fire drill, it's good. You know, I mean, what are your emotions? All right, how did you do? Just kind of look at your score. The goal, depending if you were to circle the numbers, is you want to be balanced from top to down. This is just a quick questionnaire. If you want the assessment, let me know. Like I said, unfortunately, it's expensive. There's really only 3 tools on the market right now that legitimately measure emotional intelligence. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't use the questionnaires, because the questionnaires are a great tool, especially in a coaching environment, just to get you started thinking about it and start the conversation. Okay? We already did your burnout, and so let's do a burnout assessment, because we're still doing self-awareness. Let's see where you fall. I'm going to put a question up here. If you say yes, give yourself a 1. If you say no, give yourself a 0. I love it. The analytical people are like numbering their page right now. They're like putting one down. The non-analytical people are, okay, there's 10 of them, so you can keep it on your hands if you want. Totally up to you. You ready?
Just counted how many questions in the last.
You're an analytical person. That's okay. This is also on that QR code. There's the burnout assessments in there. Okay. All right. Ready? I feel run down and drained of physical or emotional energy, yes or no. If you say yes, give yourself a 1. If you say no, don't do anything. Yes. Okay, this is the super analytical person. Yes. Sometimes, or if you're like, well, it depends, give yourself a 1. Okay? I'm less tolerant and sympathetic of people. Now, some of you are never tolerant and sympathetic of people, so let's say more than often, more than usual.
Yes, you are.
More often. So yes, I am less tolerant and sympathetic of people.
Like people in general,
Yeah.
like at the supermarket.
Yeah, like people drive you freaking crazy. Like you want to go be a veterinarian so you don't ever have to talk to people. I have a business partner who's like that. She's like, I hate people. And I was like, I'm clearly the people person in that partnership.
Sometimes these are very, a lot of times these are very situational.
100%. These are situational. So let's just do it in this moment today, sitting here. How are you feeling? Y'all, you can do whatever you want. If you want to do today, do today. If you want to do generally, it's however. I'm just trying to help you figure out if you're freaking burned out. Oh, touche. Okay, so she brings up a very good point, ladies. Your hormones may have a huge impact on this. Wait till you feel hot all the time. It sucks, okay? Florida or no Florida, you're hot all the time. All right. So just so you know, there's 11 of these questions. We're on number 3. I'm easily irritated by small problems. You should see me trying to get my backpack out of my back seat the other day. You would have thought the world was imploding. I feel misunderstood or unappreciated. I feel that I'm achieving less than I should. I feel an unpleasant level of pressure to succeed, unpleasant being the key word. I feel that I'm not getting what I want out of my job. Now, depending on the situation, you could replace job with life, marriage, my degree. Like, I'm not getting what I want out of my degree. I'm not getting what I want out of my marriage. I'm not getting what I want out of life. But for this particular one, I'm not getting what I want out of my job. I feel frustrated and negative about many things. You're my husband driving out of the neighborhood, seeing all the negatives. I feel that there is more work than I practically have the ability or time to do it. You just can't seem to get through your to-do list. Which, by the way, has anybody ever found work-life balance? It doesn't exist. Now, you guys may have a speaker who talks about it, and we're going to support that speaker 100%. So I don't want to, but the other thing I want to tell you is the younger generations don't view it as work-life balance. They view it as work-life integration. And that gives the older generations pit stains because we're like, oh my God, it's already so integrated. I can't integrate it anymore. No. Their thought of integration is they get up, they work for a few hours, they go live life for a few hours, and then they work for a few hours and they go live life for a few hours. They have found a way to integrate it and compartmentalize it, where Gen X, we're trying to have work over here and life over here. It's 2 very different mindsets. I'm having difficulty sleeping when there's not fire drills going on in the middle of the night. I'm having a hard time falling asleep. I'm having a hard time going back to sleep once you wake up. Some of you, it may even be, I'm having a hard time waking up in the morning. But it's also physiological here, like that old knee injury from high school is back, or the shoulder keeps hurting, or you suddenly have stomach issues that you've never had, or these headaches keep coming and going. This physiological reaction to stress is real, okay? I feel overwhelmed at times. Count up your numbers and see where you fall. Now, some of you are like, no shit, I already knew this. No duh, right? But then some of you are like, oh my gosh, I'm a lot worse than I thought I was. And some of you are like, man, I'm doing pretty good. I'm laughing more often. I'm doing things that make me happy, right? Okay. What we know is women are 82% more likely to experience professional burnout compared to men. Because many of us, too, have this mindset that if we just work harder, it'll get us to where we want to go. Do you know that working hard is only less than 30% of what actually gets you to where you want to go? Any guesses on what gets you where you want to go? Stronger? Faster? Relationships. Okay? And 48% of women are reporting feelings of high levels of burnout. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Women are more likely to experience burnout, and then when we do, it's more intense and it stays with us longer. So my advice to all of you as women is anticipate that it's coming. If you haven't been through it yet, it's coming. It will happen. And those of you who've been through it will tell you you go in and out of it all the time. Your goal is to anticipate it, and when you see the symptoms coming, quickly get ahead of it, because your goal should be to minimize the intensity and minimize the duration that you're stuck in it. The number one thing that helps you overcome burnout, you ready? Time off. And research shows you need 9 consecutive days of unplugging and doing nothing related to your work for 9 days. Some of you are like, yo, freaking way! 9 days? Yeah. You need 3 days to unwind, 3 days to recharge, and then 3 days to ramp yourself to come back. And then when you come back, if your job requires email, you're going to go to your email, select all, delete. Some of you are like, okay, now I have serious pit stains. There's no freaking way. So the analytical ones, the ones that were numbering your list, here's what you do. Here's what you guys do. Create a burnout folder, select all, cut, and paste. And a week will go by, and you won't go in it, and then you can delete it, okay? Because here's what you're going to do. You're going to be responsible, and before you leave, you're going to delegate your duties to somebody who can serve in your role while you're gone, or you're going to take care of things before you go. Then you're going to have an away message, and whoever contacted you over those 9 days either found somebody else to help them, or they're going to call you the day that you say that you're going to be back, and you're not going to have to work through those 9 days of emails. Just saying. Okay? All right, number 3. As women navigating this landscape that we're in, you need to acknowledge, be aware, and be ready to anticipate bias. Don't be naive. So I'm going to give you a quick exercise, and if you heard it before, don't holler out the answer. If you do, these high heels are coming off and they're headed your way. And I played sports growing up, so I can reach you even in the back of the row. Okay? So if father and son are in a bad car accident, and they both have injuries, and they're both sent to the same hospital. Have you all heard this one? How many of you heard this? No way. Okay, those of you who heard it, do not want to answer. Same car accident. They're both injured. They're sent to the same hospital. Okay? The son's injuries are so bad, they have to roll him off to the operating room right away. The nurses are prepping the son for surgery, and the surgeon walks in and says, I cannot operate on this patient because the patient is my son. How is this possible? Don't yell out the answer. Father, son, same car accident. They're sent to the same hospital. The son's injuries are so bad he needs surgery right away. Operating room, surgeon walks in. I cannot operate on this patient because the patient is my son. How is this possible? Okay, you want the shoe? You're front row. That was pretty daring. How many of you thought, you had the aha moment and you were so excited, you just hollered it out. I got it. How many of you thought surgeon was the mom? Those of you who didn't, what were some of the other things you thought of?
Adopted first bio dad.
Yeah, so you're like, yeah. It is amazing the different things you come up with. Like, okay, the son was adopted, or okay, the dad's injuries weren't so bad, or okay, the son has 2 dads. And I'm like, I love the progressive thinking. Thank you for that, right? And then in South Georgia, where I'm in rural communities, they're like, well, it was the granddaddy. Right? I mean, you come up with all of these things. This is unconscious bias. If you were not raised thinking about women as surgeons, that was not where your head went first. Unconscious bias, it is a real thing. Every single one of us has it. And if a consultant ever comes to you and says, give me $20,000 and I can train your people to not have it, they're crazy. Because you can't, there's no training in the world. We'd have to put together a 5-year program to unwire people's brains to then rewire it again. The first piece is knowing that you have it, and the second piece is knowing what those biases may be, and then understanding how it may be impacting others. So you have to think about what has shaped your lens. Why do you see the world the way that you do? So when I first took an assessment, and there is a free assessment you can take that'll tell you whether or not you have these unconscious biases. And mine I took for the first time 15 years ago, and my number one unconscious bias was against young women in childbearing age. And I was like, no way. So I took it again, young women in childbearing age. And I was like, well, shoot, the last time I checked, I've been a young woman in childbearing age for the last 25 years, right? So how is this possible? I'm a feminist. I studied women's studies. I was a women's studies minor. How is this even possible? Well, what if I told you I don't have children by choice? Does that help you kind of understand my lens a little bit? And so at this point, I was only 10 years into my career, so I said, oh my God, this is what prompted me to start research on this, by the way. I took this assessment, and I said, oh my gosh, 10 years into my career, I've never hired a young woman in childbearing age. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. Because when I was getting resumes from HR, what do you think was going through my mind subconsciously?
They're gonna get pregnant and go on mat leave.
Yeah, are they going to have to do FMLA? Can they work nights and weekends? Are they going to follow who knows? Consciously, I promise you, I was not thinking these things consciously. But unconsciously, I found reasons why other people were qualified. Every single one of us have unconscious biases. You may have it against tall women versus short women. You may have it for people of certain shapes and sizes, hair color, glasses, facial hair. I mean, it's not just gender. It's what university they went to. You know, the University of Georgia students are better than the Auburn students, or, you know, whatever it is. Go Dogs. We can't help it. We are better, but whatever. So what I did was, I said, okay, this is an unconscious bias that I have that is now conscious. I'm now aware of it. So I went, from there on out, I told HR, anytime you give me resumes, take the name off the resume. Second thing I did is I created a rubric to directly align with the qualifications of the job, so I'm objectively scoring them. And then the third thing I did is I always have a committee to help me make that decision. Now, you need to anticipate that these biases may be impacting you specifically as women, but also being a younger professional. These biases impact hiring decisions, pay decisions, career promotion. I mean, it impacts everything. So you as a woman, you need to anticipate the bias and manage your impression. So my Gen Zers, guess what? Everybody thinks that you're a millennial, and they think that you're lazy and entitled when you're not. You guys are Gen Z. So what I say to my young women is, prove them wrong. Actions speak louder than words. Prove them wrong, right? I'm just checking the time to make sure my watch isn't wrong. Okay, we're good. So prove them wrong. If there's certain behaviors that there's stereotypes around things that women do or that people are forming impressions of you, manage those impressions. Put on a skirt suit. Okay? All right, so number 4, and I know we have 9 minutes left, and we're going to go through 4 and 5 here, and then we're done, is you need to build your brand. Now, when I say brand, what do you think of when I say your brand? I'm getting this. Your reputation, good.
Your values.
What you're known for, your values. It is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you right now to come up with 3 words to describe you as a professional. 3 words. Okay, everybody have some other words? What are some of your words? Just holler them out to me. Consistent. Strategic. Communicative. Coachable. Creative. Passionate. Innovative. Collecting data from my research. This is a little sidebar. These are typical words used to describe women, typical words used to describe men. When I do this with older generations, they fall right into these buckets. And then when you have the women who have more of the male characteristics, they're the ones that are known as the bitch. But when I do this with my younger generations, men and women, there's no buckets. The younger generations don't see gender. It's really kind of exciting. This is why I love you guys. Future is bright. I'm so excited. Okay, but anyway, let's back to this. You have your 3 words. When you leave here today, what I want you to do is I want you to go back to your environments and I want you to ask people what 3 words they would use to describe you. Don't you give them your 3 words. Just see what 3 words they come up with, okay? And then I want you to compare those words and see if their words match your words. Because a lot of us think we have these brands to us, and this is who we are, and this is what we're giving off. Mine was like, I'm this internally motivated professional driven by impact. Like, I'm thinking I'm badass, right? And then I went out and I asked people for their 3 words. They were very different than my 3 words. I will show them to you here in a minute, okay? But once you have your words, I then want you to ask yourself, is this your current brand, or is this your aspirational brand? So let's go back to Tammy Jo. Badass. Her words were friendly, funny, compassionate. Everybody we talked to, oh my gosh, Tammy, she's so funny, she's so friendly, she's kind, she's compassionate. And I said, Tammy, you're trying to be a plant manager. When you think plant manager, what are the 3 words you think of? She said, smart, analytical, reliable. I said, okay, so in addition to funny, friendly, compassionate, how can we make sure that when you're not in the room, they're also thinking of you as being smart, reliable, driven? Hence also where the blazer came in. We were managing her impressions, right? And then you want to write a brand statement. And so this was my brand statement. Yeah, buddy. Badass. And then I went and asked people, and this is what they came up with. She's obnoxious, annoying Yankee or woman who's overly confident. And I suddenly realized I had to do a Melissa Furman PR campaign. Okay? Now here, you need to be thinking about how to build your brand. So your brand can be spiritual, creative team member. Like, it doesn't have to be like this power-driven brand. Just know your brand and live it, eat it, walk it, talk it, breathe it. Okay? And then the last one that we're going to close on here is to the point I made earlier is when I had to pick my top 5, I had to put this one in here. You have to build relationships. And there's 3 categories. Number 1 is role models. Because the best way to learn how to behave a certain way is by watching somebody else do it. There's this woman that I worked with when I worked at Emory 20 years ago. Her name's Terry Straw. She was from Texas, and she was so graceful in everything that she did, yet she was assertive and she was confident. So I use her as a role model, and when I'm in these meetings as Missy and I'm ready to go and I'm feeling confident, I say to myself, how would Terry Straw fight this argument? Or how would she present herself? And so I think of her as my role model in my head, okay? Second, you need to have mentors for sure, but here's what I want to tell you. You need to first assess your mentoring needs. What do you need right now? And then go be ready to articulate those needs and go recruit people who are going to help you with those needs. She need to say to them, hey, I'm at this point in my career right now, I'm thinking about whether or not to sell my business, and so I need a mentor right now who can help me make that decision. Do you think you'd be the best person to help me with that? Okay, number 1. Number 2, you should have different types of mentors. You should have somebody within your industry and within your organization. You need somebody within your industry but not your organization. And you need somebody who's completely outside the whole world, the whole industry altogether. And I highly recommend that every single one of you have at least one male mentor. Because we need the men to help us navigate this landscape. Okay? And then the last thing is I want you to think about is sponsors. Sponsors are people in positions of authority who will endorse you when you're not in the room. So real quick story, there was this young woman who worked with me at the university. She was an administrative assistant for one of the other deans, but she had a master's degree in criminal justice, and she was amazing. And so here I am as a dean, I'm sitting in these meetings, and they wanted me to serve on a committee, which by the way, as a professional, I learned how to say no, and I have boundaries. And I said, no, I don't think I'd be a good person to be on this committee, but I know somebody who would. And I recommended her, and they're like, yeah, no, Melissa, this is a really important project. We only want faculty and administrators. And she's a staff member. I said, I get that, but she has a master's degree in criminal justice, and she wrote a dissertation on X, Y, and Z, and I think she'd be amazing. As a matter of fact, I think she's a better fit than me. So I think she should be on this committee. Long story short, they put her on the committee. They used her idea. They ended up going with her idea, which gave her so much visibility. She's now in a new role down on the health sciences campus, making $52,000 more a year. And to this day, she still has no idea that it was me who recommended her for that committee. I was her sponsor. So you have to build relationships with people in positions of authority who can advocate for you when you're not in the room. Now, how do you do that? You don't go up and be like, hey, will you be my sponsor? No, you be creepy. You watch them get up in the buffet line and go stand behind them. Because when you're at a buffet line, what do? You talk to the person in front of you or the person behind you. It's a great opportunity to start talking to somebody. Have your elevator pitch. Introduce yourself. Okay? Because at the end of the day, in closing, nobody cares about your success and your career more than you. So when I have people come to me for career coaching or leadership coaching and they come in with all these reasons why they're having these barriers, I shut them down real fast. And I say, nobody cares about your success more than you. So pursue the professional development opportunities. Even if your industry or your employer doesn't pay you to go or doesn't pay for you to go, you save your money and you go. And take risks. Negotiate. Negotiation skill is the number one skill that I teach in my women's leadership programs because by default, Women tend to not negotiate as well as men do. You got to learn how to negotiate and set your goals. If you don't know what success looks like and you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? So take those risks, negotiate and set your goals, and you'll get there, okay? And then in final thought, I want to say to my boomer women back there, you guys were the true trailblazers. You were the ones who came through the trails, for sure. And you had your machetes and your hose, and you kind of cleared the trail for us. And here comes Gen X, we're coming through. But here's what I need to say to my Gen X women. We need to make sure we pave the road for the women behind us. Because if we're just forging through at 100 miles an hour and we're not paving it behind us, when the people come behind us, they're going to have to get the machete out again. And so what I tell my older folks is, we need all the generations in the workforce, 100%. None of them can do it on their own. This is why it is so critical that we learn how to work together. But my older folks, we can clear the runway. We can clear and pave the runway to give this full space for these younger people to launch and take off, because that's what we're going to need in the future. Okay? So that's all I have. There's the QR code again if you need it. You have access to the burnout. There's a trust assessment in there. There's all kinds of handouts, resources there for you to use. You are welcome to call me, email me, text me. If you need anything, I'm a resource to you all. If you want that assessment, just send me an email. In the subject line, put assessment, and my assistant will send you the link. And if you like, follow me on social media. I used to write all these articles, and the 26-year-old who works for me told me that you guys don't read my articles. And I swear you read my articles, and then she showed me the analytics, and you don't read my articles. So she has me doing videos instead. And I feel like a dork, but she has me doing videos, so you're welcome to follow me to watch the videos. That's all I have. So thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Is that a good Instagram post?